From the unforgettable Captain Jack Sparrow to the really enigmatic Edward Scissorhands, Johnny Depp has, well, he's kept audiences captivated for decades, hasn't he?
Absolutely. Decades. A truly magnetic screen presence.
But you know, beyond that charm, there's a life that's just packed with dramatic highs, some pretty intense lows, and, well, undeniable talent.
Definitely. It's a complex picture.
So today we're doing a deep dive into that remarkable journey. We'll explore his career, his personal trials, and the whole complex story that's made him one of Hollywood's most talked about figures.
Right. We've looked through all the key material, the interviews, the history.
Exactly. And we'll be your guides, helping you sort of unearth the most compelling insights. Let's start at the beginning, maybe, his early years.
Yeah, it's fascinating because his beginnings were, well, a world away from Hollywood glamour. But they really seem to have set the stage for such an unconventional path.
Totally. He almost stumbled into acting, didn't he? He had completely different plans at first.
Music was the first love.
That early life, it definitely built a foundation for someone who was always going to push against expectations. Born John Christopher Depp II, June 9th, 1963, Owensboro, Kentucky.
Right, Kentucky. Not exactly Hollywood.
No. And his childhood, it was far from what you might picture for a movie star. The family moved constantly. He even said himself he was kind of a troubled kid.
Yeah, I read that. Getting into fights, experimenting with drugs.
Yeah.
Pretty restless.
And dropped out of high school at 15. It paints a picture,
Yes.
you know, a restless, maybe rebellious spirit from the get-go.
Exactly. And that rebelliousness, it kind of foreshadows his later resistance to being easily labeled, doesn't it?
It really does. Before the acting fame, his passion was completely different. People often forget that.
Yeah, the music thing. Before he was ever on screen, his big dream was, believe it or not, to be a rock star.
A rock star. Imagine. He played in several bands, one called The Kids.
That's the one. Yeah, they even opened for some big names like Iggy Pop.
Wow. So it wasn't just a passing phase. It really changes how you see his early path.
Definitely. But then fate, or maybe just pure chance, stepped in.
The Nicolas Cage meeting.
Exactly. A chance meeting with Nicolas Cage, who suggested he try acting. That led him to audition for A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984.
And boom, his film debut. Almost accidental.
It's a real sliding doors moment, isn't it? You wonder if that meeting hadn't happened.
Do we even know him as an actor? Or would he be some obscure musician somewhere? It totally changed his life's direction.
Completely redirected it.
And that accidental start quickly blew up into this massive overnight sensation with 21 Jump Street. That was 1987.
Oh yeah, huge teen heartthrob status, almost instantly. Posters on bedroom walls everywhere.
The kind of fame most people dream of, right? But Depp, he apparently hated it. Hated it.
He called it a golden cage, famously. Felt trapped by that image.
Yeah, a golden cage. So what did he do? He deliberately started taking these weird, dark, unconventional roles right after, almost like an act of defiance.
Trying to shatter that teen idol mold he despised.
And it's striking how that aversion, that fighting the golden cage, shows this pattern of resisting labels throughout his career.
A refusal to be pigeonholed,
Yeah.
which actually led him straight to the creative partnership that really defined his artistic identity.
Right. That fight, that relentless push to be himself on his own terms, it led him straight to Tim Burton.
The perfect match, in many ways.
Their first film together, Edward Scissorhands in 1990, was just an absolute game changer.
Totally. Depp's performance, so haunting, so beautiful. It proved he wasn't just a pretty face. He was a real chameleon.
It was transformative. Right from the start, you could see something special was happening there.
And what's key about that period is how Burton just gave him the perfect, maybe slightly dark canvas for his unique style.
Yeah. It wasn't just acting, it was creating these really distinct, often kind of melancholic characters.
Characters that audiences really connected with and that let Depp just disappear into the role.
And they kept making these incredible, unique films. Ed Wood in 94.
Which many say is one of his best dramatic roles.
Yeah.
Really nuanced.
Agreed. And Sleepy Hollow in 99. Always something different, always visually striking.
Always unmistakably Burton Depp.
But then came the big one. Nothing quite prepared anyone for the massive global impact of Pirates of the Caribbean in 2003.
Oh, Jack Sparrow. He wasn't just a character. He became a full-blown cultural phenomenon. Instantly iconic.
Everywhere. But here's a fun fact you might not know. Disney apparently hated his performance at first.
Really? Hated Jack Sparrow.
Found it too bizarre, too. Unhinged, maybe? They just didn't get what he was doing.
Wow. That initial doubt from the studio, It just highlights how unconventional and original his take really was.
Absolutely. And his commitment to that character, even when people were skeptical, that's key to understanding his whole approach.
Yeah, his process seems pretty intense.
Intense is one word for it. The sources mention him spending millions on costumes for his character.
Billions.
On costumes.
Yeah, and famously basing Jack Sparrow on Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones.
Right. You can definitely see the Keith Richards swagger in there. And he even wore his character's clothes when he wasn't filming. Just stayed in character, basically.
Whoa. Total immersion.
So it makes you ask, right? Was this method, this total immersion, was it just genius? Or maybe was it a path that kind of blurred the lines into something a bit self-destructive?
That's the fascinating question. It's more than just dedication. It feels like this deep fusion where the character almost takes over the actor. It's a hallmark of method acting, sure, but
But for him, maybe it made the boundary between roles and reality kind of permeable.
possibly. That brilliance definitely produced iconic performances, but maybe it came with a steep personal price tag. It suggests a level of commitment that might help explain some of the off-screen challenges, too.
Yeah, that intensity. It certainly seemed to bleed over into his personal life sometimes, especially his relationships. They've often been turbulent and very, very public.
High-profile relationships are almost part of the territory, it seems.
His romantic history reads like a Hollywood script itself. There was the big relationship with Winona Ryder.
Ah, yes, the Winona Forever tattoo, which famously got changed later.
Right. Then Kate Moss. And later, of course, Amber Heard.
And that marriage to Amber Heard, it became incredibly volatile, didn't it?
Yeah, escalating into just one of the ugliest, most public celebrity divorces imaginable. It turned into a total media circus.
A real circus. And when we talk about the Heard trial, it's really important to state that it brought out some shocking allegations, really difficult stuff from both sides.
Absolutely. Very shocking. And these kinds of public legal battles, they present really complex, often conflicting stories.
Right. And our goal here is just to acknowledge the information that surfaced during that time, not to, take sides or endorse any particular viewpoint.
Exactly, just reporting what was made public. And those legal fights, they definitely had immediate, pretty severe career consequences for him.
Oh, for sure. For a while there, he lost some major roles, like his part in the Fantastic Beasts franchise. That was a big one.
Huge. But then, maybe one of the most surprising turns in this whole saga. Public opinion seemed to shift almost wildly back in his favor during and after the trial.
It was remarkable to watch unfold. Really dramatic shift.
So it makes you wonder, what does that huge swing in public support tell us about, I don't know, media narratives today? How quickly they can change?
That's a great question. It suggests maybe a collective urge to reevaluate initial takes, perhaps a wider questioning of what we think we know about public figures based on headlines.
And that strong public support, it's clearly playing a role in his current path toward a comeback.
It seems to be. He is making a return, albeit slowly, carefully.
Yeah, he's directing a film now, Modi, I think it's called.
Right. And he's been touring with his band, Hollywood Vampires.
And the fans. They're still very actively campaigning for him to come back for Pirates 6. That support hasn't gone away.
No, it hasn't. It shows the powerful public backing is still very much there.
So his story, it feels like it's clearly far from finished.
Not at all. And this ongoing journey, it just highlights how dynamic a public figure's narrative can be, especially now in our super-connected, always-on media world.
Love him, hate him. Whatever your take, Johnny Depp is, well, he's unforgettable. There's no arguing that.
Undeniably memorable. For so many different reasons.
A genius artist, a deeply flawed man. Maybe both things are true at the same time, kind of intertwined.
That seems plausible. The complexity is part of what makes him so fascinating.
And like you said, his story isn't over yet. That's maybe the most intriguing part right now.
Still unfolding.
So what does this whole ongoing journey, this enigmatic figure with all the artistic highs and the very public personal lows, what does it tell us, maybe, about talent, about resilience? And just the sheer complexity of public perception in our modern age.
It leaves you with a lot to think about.
It really does. As you, listening, reflect on this deep dive into his life, what's the thing that stands out most to you?